Breaking news, the Riviera Beach City Council cancels a special meeting planned for this hour to discuss the future of the police chief.
Instead, the chief himself, Clarence Williams, will hold a news conference at any moment to, quote, set the record straight.
We go to News Channel 5's Wanda Moore live at the Riviera Beach Marina, where the news conference expected to start any moment. Wanda?
Speak to the chief for the first time and ask him what his response is to the vote of no confidence on Friday, which passed overwhelmingly. I also talked with Alex Freeman, who hoped to replace the chief. Listen to what both men had to say.
Any comment on the vote of no confidence? Are you going to address that tonight in the press conference?
Possibly.
So is this tonight a kind of a show of strength for the chief?
I'm going to find that out. I'm going to find that out. But whatever the case is, I support the chief 1,000%.
So you were at that meeting at Hearst Chapel. Can you talk about that? What happened? Why the chief was there?
I think that those questions has been answered, Wanda, and I have no other comments.
Well, the question has not been answered why the chief was there. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think most people are still trying to figure that out, including the mayor. So do you know what was discussed during that meeting?
Wanda, I have no comment. Yes, ma'am. It's gonna be a meeting.
I do not expect this to be a show of, rather I expect this to be a show of strength here. I do not expect the chief to retire here. A lot of his supporters are here. So again, I expect this to be a show of strength. Michael?
Wanda, what's the mayor saying today if you've had contact with him? He wanted to get a gauge of the city council and about the future of the chief. Any chats with the mayor?
I talked to the mayor earlier, and he is telling me that he really wanted this one-on-one meeting with the chief. And so far, the chief simply has not responded to his request. So now he's going in a different route. He's asking the city manager, who is an interim city manager, to schedule that meeting. Because remember, Jonathan Evans was the acting city manager who was fired about 3 weeks ago. So he is hoping that meeting to happen very shortly and to get answers, because the mayor, he can actually suspend. Michael?
And so the outstanding questions: why was the city manager fired? What, if any, role did the police chief possibly have in that firing? And what now is his future because of that? What was his involvement in a meeting? Was it a political power play, something else altogether? We're going to go back to Wanda Moore. We're going to hear from the chief himself, but many unanswered questions remain. We'll see if any of them are answered tonight. And we'll continue to follow that, go right back to the news conference when it begins.
Absolutely. We do have some more breaking news to get to right now. At the top of the 5 o'clock newscast, the man accused of the triple murder in Jupiter on Super Bowl Sunday night claims someone planted a gun on him and that he's not guilty.
That's what Contact 5 investigator Sam Smika has discovered in hundreds of pages of evidence released late today. And Sam joins us with more on this breaking news. Sam.
Michael, Ashley, police tell a different story than the suspect in this case, at least according to documents. While Christopher Vasada was recovering from a gunshot wound in the hospital, detectives say he confessed to the crime. But in the discovery evidence released today, Vasada says someone planted a gun and clip on him.
Almost 24 hours after someone with a gun shot and killed Brandy Al-Salhi, Kelly Doherty, and Sean Henry Super Bowl Sunday night, Christopher Vasada got 3 text messages from a friend. They said, quote, "Yo, did you hear about Sean? He got shot and killed, along with my friend Kelly." What this friend didn't know was that detectives working the triple murder already considered Vasada a suspect. Shortly after the killings, police found Vasada after he fell out of a car. He told detectives he had been shot at a buddy's house. 6 weeks later, Jupiter police charged Vasada with 3 counts of murder. In jailhouse calls he's made since that day, transcripts show Vasada has maintained his innocence. Transcripts show he told his friend Jordan, quote, "I'm not a murderer. I don't know how they keep upping my charges and making it worse. Didn't have a gun with me. I was just getting money from Charlie. Like I said, I'm just thinking whoever threw me out of the car threw it with me." Charlie, aka Charles Vorpegel, owned the home where the shooting happened. He faces federal firearm charges. Vasada goes on to claim he doesn't remember anything that happened after he was shot.
But again, police say when Visada was recovering in the hospital, he confessed to the killings. The state says the death penalty is on the table. Right now, it looks like Visada will not be back in court until March 2018. Sam Smink, WPTV News Channel 5.
All right, beautiful evening. We do have a few showers coming in across Boca in the next hour or two. But if you have plans outside, I think overall you'll be fine. Temperatures are still in the mid and high 80s. High pressure across South Florida, bringing in some sunshine. There's a little line of showers, streamer showers coming in from Grand Bahama, and we're cooling off a little bit. Our normal high is 86, and we're just about that now across up and down the coastline. You can see showers that worked through South County earlier, now over Sawgrass. Evening forecast looks fantastic. We do have some wet weather on the way, though. We'll talk about that in the weekend forecast coming up.
All right, Steve, thank you. Tonight, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is looking into an officer-involved shooting incident in Sebastian. That officer, Preet Singh, hit by gunfire, is hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. News Channel 5's John Shaman is live in Sebastian with what he's uncovered today. John?
Well, Ashley, to give you an idea of how rare it is for an officer to be injured by gunfire on the job here, Officer Singh is the first officer in the department's 90-year history to be injured that way. We're trying to serve an arrest warrant Monday night at Earl's Hideaway along Indian River Drive. Ward Kenyon was wanted for a violation of probation. Officer Preet Singh and Officer Braden Navu got on either side of Kenyon to escort him out of the bar when police say Kenyon drew a firearm, one of two in his possession.
Mr. Kenyon and Officer Singh fell to the floor, during which Mr. Kenyon drew a firearm, and that firearm discharged, we believe, injuring Officer Singh at that point.
Officer Navu fired several rounds simultaneously. No indication yet how many shots were fired. Both Kenyon and Officer Singh taken for treatment. No word how many bullets struck either man. Officer Navu's been on the job just 6 months. Officer Singh, seen here in a Facebook post by the police department, had been working about a year.
This man's a hero. He was trying to protect the citizens and the public, and he was confronted with a deadly force situation, and he did an amazing job.
Police are continuing their investigation and plan to ask the state attorney's office to charge Kenyon, who was on probation from an aggravated assault case, with attempted murder on a law enforcement officer. Again, the FDLE has been asked to conduct the investigation into the shooting on Monday night. As for the last time there was an officer-involved shooting involving a Sebastian police officer, it was back in 2007. We're live at Sebastian. John Shaman, WPTV News Channel 5.
A young woman charged with killing her ex-boyfriend in court today. Her lawyer tried to make the case that his client's confession not admissible.
News Channel 5's Tanya Rogers is live at the courthouse with reaction from the victim's family. Tanya?
Well, for almost a year, the family of 21-year-old James Berry, they've been waiting for justice. They told me today that no matter how long the case takes, they're just waiting for justice to be done.
This is for our son. This is for his justice.
James Berry's family made it clear when speaking to reporters outside the courtroom, don't forget their son.
He didn't have a mean bone in his body. He loved life. He loved his family. He loved his friends.
We'll be clear on.
Inside the courtroom, Berry's ex-girlfriend Melanie Eam took the stand. Last November, detectives say Eam stabbed Berry to death in his Loxahatchee home. Investigators wanted to question Eam almost immediately, but she had left for Maryland. PBSO detectives caught up with her there and talked with her at her cousin's house. She was not under arrest, but her lawyer argued today his client did not realize the interview was voluntary, and her questions about getting a lawyer were not answered.
I think that whether or not she was in custody is a subjective question, not whether the detectives thought she was, not whether the family thought she was, but what she thought.
Today, her lawyer argued Eam's confession should not be allowed during the trial.
My client gave an alleged confession in violation of her constitutional rights.
Now, the court hearing will continue next month in order to bring some of the testimony of some of the relatives in Maryland down here to Florida. Reporting live, Tanya Rogers, WPTV News Channel 5.
We are going to take you back now to Riviera Beach, where the police chief, Clarence Williams, set to hold a news conference where he says he's going to, quote, set the record straight. As you see reporters and crews and assembled people from the city getting ready, the chief right over the right shoulder of the woman in red at the lectern right now. The chief saying he'll answer questions that revolve around this. And let's listen.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First of all, thank you so much for being here tonight. We sincerely appreciate you coming because, in a real sense, we have to sit here and talk about setting the record straight. That's why we're here today, to set the record straight. Oh, is the microphone? There's no microphone. That means I have to project my voice. Okay. I was saying that we're here today to set the record straight. That's why we're here. And I wanted to thank each and every one of you on behalf of our police chief, Clarence Williams, and his wife, Ethel Isaac Williams, who have been in this community, have served this community year in and year out. Our police chief has served this community for 15 years. He's no stranger. Right. He's no stranger.
During the prelude to the police chief's remarks, what this is all about is several weeks ago, the city manager fired. Since then, questions have arisen. Why was the city manager fired? What, if any, role did the police chief have in that firing?
Not another day of this character.
What was he doing at a meeting following the firing of the city manager, discussing the future of the city and what would happen after that? All questions that have been swirling about. This the prelude to the chief, surrounded by his supporters, coming to the microphone himself to speak. Let's listen back in as we set the table for you on what we expect to hear. News Channel 5's Wanda Moore has been following the story for weeks, is there to ask questions, and we're waiting for the chief himself, Chief Clarence Williams of Riviera Beach, to step to the podium.
Many of the people here and many of you are ready to fight because we're saying no more, not another word, no more injustice against our police chief. And why do I say that? Well, this is a modern day witch hunt. A modern day witch hunt. Everyone knew, it's common knowledge, that the police chief has announced that he's going to retire. And no sooner did he announce his retirement did we start to hear all this mess. And they don't deserve that, ladies and gentlemen. They don't deserve that. Who do we have here? We've got, of course, we have ministers from our community. We have Reverend Davis, Reverend Tyson, Reverend Lofton, Evans, Lovett, Sweeting in our community. We have former Mayor Michael Brown. We have Leonard Mitchell, the acting assistant police chief. The assistant city police chief, Michael Madden. Of course, we have our police chief, Clarence Williams, who is the reason why we're here. We have a legal team all the way from Washington, D.C. All the way from Washington, D.C. The former general counsel of the NAACP. Don't tell me we don't know about civil rights. Kim Keenan, who's here. That's right. We've got Sean Abney, Elaine James, Willie Gary, I mentioned him, Mia Petard. There's so many people, and you all, most importantly, you all that are here to support us because we know his record, and the record doesn't lie. It's not time to rewrite history. It's not time to rewrite history. For 15 years, he's given his life. He's made the sacrifices. He has brought more money to the police department of Riviera Beach, raised over $7 million. You all know this. We can't rewrite history. 52% reduction in crime since he's arrived. $4.5 million to fund additional cops and equipment. $7 million, unprecedented amounts of money, to purchase crime-fighting equipment for the city of Riviera Beach. He's held national titles, international titles. He's recognized by his peers everywhere, but yet here at home, there's going to be a witch hunt. No. So we say no more. It's unparalleled. So again, I thank you for being here because like us, I'm sure you believe it's time to say enough is enough. And when I say set the record straight, his record is straight. His record is clean, unprecedented, unimpeachable. But there are those, for whatever political reasons, want to say something different. So we aren't setting the record straight in terms of his service to this community. We are setting the record straight about this mess. The past couple days, the leading story every single day involves our police chief, Clarence Williams, as if he's done something nefarious or wrong. We are setting the record straight today. And so against that, I'd like to introduce a man who really needs no introduction. We know who Willie Gary is. We call him the Drying Killer. And what do we know? We know that he fights for those who have no voice. He's there to represent people who have been wronged, where there's injustice, whether it's in the boardroom, in the courtroom, or in the police department. That's what he's here. And when we have our police chief who has given so much, only the Giant Killer who's taken down the tobacco industry with his $23 billion verdict. Only he is fitting to represent our police chief and his family. That's right. And so I bring you Mr. Willie Gary. I feel like
Thank you very much, C.K. Hoffler. You need to know that C.K. is one of the premier lawyers in America, and I'm just proud to be teaming up with C.K. and those of us who are here to make sure that our friend, our client, and your chief gets a fair shake. After 15 years, of serving the people of this city, and it's a great city now. And I remember the times when it wasn't a great city, but it's a great city now. Because of his leadership, this city has made inroads like you wouldn't believe. God has been good. And he is a chief that has served the people, not a party, not a group, but the people. So when I got the call, because not only is he my friend, but he's my client. You need to know that. And you know, the lady asked me the other day, and I need to tell you. She said, well, Mr. Gary, what is it that you do? I said, well, I try to speak to young people a lot, high school to high school, city to city, people, church to church, whatever it is. But I'm also a lawyer, and I sue people when we catch them wrong. That's right. So I stopped by to tell you, don't mess with our chief. He's been too much, he's meant too much to so many. Right. And this is a, you all have a great city. You need to know that. Man, you would think after all the comments I've been hearing that this was not a great city, but it is a great city. You've done so much. I mean, he almost destroyed crime, and it didn't be that way. We got to acknowledge that. That's right. But after 14 years of serving, over 40 years in law enforcement, it's not right for him to go out like that. It's not right. And you know it's not right. He's a good man. Married to a good woman. And they've been here for this city. They've stood for you. Are you going to stand for them? I want to present this man to you tonight. You know him. But I want to present him to you tonight because he's done so much for so many, saved a lot of lives. That's right. And you know, his presence here is, and let me say this, even though I'm a lawyer, I'm not here looking for trouble. I'm just not backing away from it. Go ahead, yeah. Now, I don't know who's out there trying to start a fight. But if you want to fight, we'll put the gloves on. And we'll journey wherever we have to go. Amen. Even if it's the Supreme Court, wherever we have to go. But I don't come with that kind of spirit tonight. I think that this is about celebrating success. Right. Celebrating goodness and good people. This is a great city you have. Crime reduction like you wouldn't believe. 52.8%. Keep talking, Doc. 12 years, 52.8%.
Rocky Pomerantz was the most high award you can get.
That's right.
Police Chiefs Association. This agency.
That's right. I hear
you.
You.
Police agency in the state of Florida, because of all of our ingenuity, technology, contributions, voted the best of the best. Make no mistake about it, in Bonita Springs. He stood strong.
That's right.
Still standing. You got it twisted. This is a fight. That's right. We've come to let you know you've opened the can.
That's right.
And it ain't going back in yet.
That's right.
We ready.
We're ready, and there's no question about it. And let me say this. I told him to say everything that he's saying. But above all of that, I want credit for all of it. But on a serious note, you know, 15 years of service is a lot of time.
That's right.
And I know this may sound a little old-fashioned to you, but I was born the brother of a Baptist minister. And I just think that in this service, 15 years of it, he and Ethel didn't do it alone. God had a hand in it with them.
Right.
God had a hand in this kind of service, this kind of man, changing this community, reshaping this community. And then when I think about our chief and the hand that God played in it 15 years and bringing him here, I'm reminded that when God needed a faith bearer, see, he knows who to call. That's why he called our chief.
Yes, sir.
When he needed a faith bearer, he summoned Moses.
Yes, sir.
From the courts of Pharaoh.
Yes, sir.
When he needed a storm expert,
yes, sir,
he summoned Job from the land of Oz.
Yes, sir.
When he needed a wise heart,
yes, sir,
he summoned David from the house of Jesse. A man of wisdom he called Solomon. When he needed a great prognosticator, he summoned Isaiah. When he needed a financier, he summoned Malachi. When he needed a highway builder, he summoned John the Baptist. An evangelist, he called Paul. When he needed a savior, he called his son. Oh, but when this great city needed a police chief, that was a mover and a shaker. God called our chief. Let's give him a big hand. Chief Clarence Williams. Give him a big hand.
Way to bring him on. Way to bring him on.
First of all, let me say thank you to my trusted friends and counselors, Ms. C.K. Hoffler and Mr. Willie Gary, for standing with me today and for giving me such great counsel through this process. And to all of you gathered, my family, my lovely wife, who I had to call when, in the first time in my 43 years of service, I was the lead story at 12 o'clock. And I just didn't want her to hear that from somebody else. And this woman of God who warned me, see, can't you just sit on your hands? You got 5 months to go. Why do you care so much? I didn't listen to her. And she could have said, I told you so. She could have said, you made that bed, you lie in it. No, but this woman of God that God gave me said, honey, what are we going to do and when are we going to do it? Thank God for my wife. To the clergy and my fraternity brothers that are assembled and friends of the community, your presence here warms my heart. I am especially grateful to the good men and women I have had the privilege to serve with every day at the Riviera Beach Police Department. All right. They are without a doubt some of the finest officers and civilian servants you'll find anywhere in the world. They are. It's never been an easy task to have to defend one's own honor and service of over 40 years. But when you attack my integrity, I must first answer, and the answer must be clear, and with a clarion voice, we must speak truth to power.
That's right.
This has been what you have been experiencing, what I have been experiencing, what my family has been experiencing is a malicious, politically motivated attack to assassinate my character. But I recognize that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and wickedness in high places. So I must fight the good fight, because there are voices who would never be heard if I don't speak. My record is clear. My commitment to public service is without question, and my love for this community is unwavering. Even though some people seek to crucify me for no reason other than hate, hate generated by distortions and half-truths. Shame on those who perpetrate such. For 15 years as chief, I've raised the bar. I've raised the bar of accountability. I've raised the bar of training. I've raised the bar of technology. And we have established a clear mission statement in the Riviera Beach Police Department: service is job one. That is the standard we hold the men and women to that serve and protect you. I took an oath to serve over 43 years ago, and that oath motivates me each and every day. Now, this is delicate, and I protect my brand fiercely, as many of my persons that I work with in media will attest. I must say, for those officers who have forgotten the core tenets of the oath and who have resisted being held accountable, I say, shame on you.
Right.
Officers that tip off drug dealers hampering arrests.
Come on now.
That's not being accountable, and that's not living up to the oath. Officers that endanger the life of babies by not responding timely. That's not being accountable, and that's not living up to the oath. Officers who abuse sick time and get arrested in neighboring jurisdictions, that's not being accountable. I say to those individuals that I fired, I'll fire them again and again and again if you betray the trust that this community has bestowed upon you. Because our citizens deserve better, and better we must be. Now, the burning question out there. So, Chief, what do you think about the vote of no confidence? I look you in the eye and I say to you, not much. Why? Because many of the officers who voted with the PBA were intimidated or lured by empty promises of union protection or personal gain. And some, I dare say, have simply failed in their commitment and oath that they swore to uphold. I stand behind my record, my love for this community, for the people, for the good cops in this community. I leave you with, my record is clear. My commitment to this community is long-standing. I love this community. I have nothing but praise for this community. I have nothing but praise for the men and women who serve and protect in this community. And it is simply unfortunate, the things that have transpired based on half-truths and innuendos throughout this community. Our elected officials had every right and ability to make the personnel decision that they made. Right. Following that decision, an inordinate amount of police services were devoted to keeping them safe because of the decision that they made. That's right. Anything that you saw me doing since that September 29th date was simply to keep people safe. Right. All right. In closing, my prayer, our challenge, I'm reminded of a poem that has sustained me. It does not matter how straight the gate, or charged with punishment, the scroll. I am the captain of my fate. I am the master of my soul. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief?
Ma'am.
After that, you've got to stay another year.
Well, now we're going to entertain some questions. As you know, Mr. Gary and I are his counsel, and so some of the questions perhaps we may not be able to answer, but we want to be able to answer as many questions as possible within the time. And again, thank you so much for being here today. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Well, to back up a little bit, one of the accusations that started this whole thing was that the chief, after he retired, was interested in taking over the city manager's job. Can you address that?
Well, Willie, you want to?
Yeah, you know, that's why falsehoods can cause so much trouble. We're in this together. This is not about one person, not about two people. They're in it together. And I think the chief just wants to see the city be all that it can be. And if he could serve in any capacity, because his charming, dynamic wife says he's going into retirement. But knowing him, any capacity that he could serve this city, he'd do it in a heartbeat. But, you know, that's the American way. I mean, you know, he has nothing against anybody, and surely nothing against the city manager. Nothing. Zero.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I was wondering about that meeting at Hearst Chapel. So the position of the chief is that he was there to keep people safe. What does that mean? Safe from what?
Just, I mean, there were death threats perhaps, and in his capacity as a police chief, he was there to ensure the safety of elected officials, ironically.
Is that normal for the chief of police to attend a small meeting like that? And
well, I think it's normal for the chief of police, especially this chief of police, who takes his job very seriously, to do what he has been mandated to do, which is to protect and serve. And at that time, because of the heightened scrutiny, he was asked to do that, and he took the call and he took it seriously.
And he forgot that he was at that meeting to protect people when I asked him, or is that something that he was protecting the people? Why did he not say that to me the second I asked him?
I think that was taken out of context, and you have to understand. And I know that you do understand this because you've been a journalist for many years, a fine journalist for many years. That there are things at that moment, because of why he was there, that he could not sit and talk to you about. That's right. But he was, and as you know. See, we operate as a team. There was an active investigation. And I think you do this because you're a seasoned journalist. When there is an active investigation, the police chief cannot comment on that. That's right. But suffice it to say there was a need for protection and security, and he answered that call. And for him to be cast, to be ostracized for that is unbelievable. It's unacceptable, and that's why we're here.
And when the mayor asked him for a one-on-one meeting, why hasn't the chief responded to that yet?
Well, the chief has responded. We can't discuss the response, but the chief has responded to that.
Could you explain just a bit, what is this investigation that he was protecting that he couldn't discuss while he was at the private meeting with two council members?
I don't think that that's we're at liberty to discuss that.
Are you saying there was a criminal investigation ongoing that he was investigating at that moment?
I apologize. We're not at liberty to discuss that.
Chief, you said that, what do you think of the vote of no confidence? I think you said not much. You said your officers were intimidated or lured by empty promises. What does that mean? Can you elaborate on that?
It's exactly what he said.
What does it mean? Who would intimidate them and why and so on?
Well, I think, again, without the purpose, we're trying to answer as many questions, but you have to understand as well that this press conference is designed to set the record straight and give you as much information as we can. That information and greater details about that more than likely will surface at some point. But today, our focus today is to stop or to let people know this witch hunt has got to stop, and we're ready to fight.
Does the chief have any concerns that he may not have the full support now of all of his officers in the department? And if that's the case, why would you want to stay on under circumstances like that?
The citizens of the city.
Because he wants to stay on because he deserves to be there. And he's not going to succumb to this kind of ridiculous type activity. For him to leave would be an indication that he's ducking his responsibility. He's a quitter, and he's not a quitter. He's a fighter. He's been fighting for 15 years. He's just been fighting for you and you and you and all of us. He's a fighter, man. He's a fighter.
How many of those officers live in this city? See, this city belongs to the citizens.
That's right.
Not to the officers of...
that's the problem, none of them live in the city.
That's it. Well, that's my point. How many of them live in this city? The police, whatever that organization is, they do not live in this city. They do not run this city.
Right.
They don't have the right to make a decision.
They're told are paranoid schizophrenics. That's what they are.
Chief, is it common practice if there were a security concern at a meeting that the chief himself would go to provide security, or would you normally send some sort of security detail of officers?
And I hate to say, but we did answer that earlier.
Yeah, but he's been in the trenches for 15 years. You know, in the streets, behind the bars, in the clubs, wherever it's been 15 years that he's been working to make this city all that it can be, to make it a better place. He's a good man. He's a good law enforcement officer. He's been doing it all of his life, and it's not right in the twilight of his career that you get this kind of crazy foolishness. It's not right. It's not right.
It sounds as though you didn't really rule out the fact that he was interested in the city manager's job. You said he would offer a lot to the community in any way he could.
No.
Yeah, but my point is, why wouldn't you want anybody that's good for the city, good for the county, for the state, for the nation, to be a part of the system? That's what's wrong with that? Last I heard, this is America, the home of the brave and the free.
So if
he has the right to pursue whatever position he wants, as long as he qualifies.
But the key here is, there was no political agenda. It was not politically motivated. The police chief was doing what he does every day to protect and secure this community, whether it's elected officials or all the individual citizens that live here. That's what he was doing. There was no political agenda to outplay somebody so he could come in. That's not what this is about. That's what those who are trying to stir up something want us to believe. But that's not what it's about. So we don't want to confuse things. We want to be very, very clear on that. That was not his intent. That's not what he did, and they are not related.
One more question.
Chief, why hire a legal team? Why not just come out, talk to the media, speak to your community here, and answer the questions?
Wait a minute. You trying to say he should have hired me?
Other personal experience.
No, I know. But on a serious note, we are here in the spirit of compromise. We all are God's children. We're in this together. Let's just work it out. But I'm just saying, we're not, here to start a fight. But if you don't start it, then it won't be one. But if you start it, we're going to put the boxing gloves on.
Amen.
Plain and simple.
Let me just ask this. Is it any reason, if they don't have confidence in the department, is it anything preventing them from leaving? That's right. Is it anything, is there a law that they cannot leave? Just answer that for me.
Yeah, that's like saying he's been here 15 years. He's given the best of his service. And then all of a sudden, and within months of his retirement, you get some people going to smear his name and go on a witch hunt? That's not right. And he's supposed to tuck his tail and run.
Who is doing the witch hunt?
Come out swinging.
Who is doing the witch hunt?
Well, they free to leave when they get ready. I got officers leaving next week that I'm going to the sheriff's office. I ain't stopped them from going nowhere. The applications, that door swing both ways. I came here 2007. I've been here 127 months after 24 years at the school district. I came when he asked me, well, do you still feel like I'm going to be with you. Ride or die. Ride or die. Go ahead. Ride or die.
Reverend Evan, would you close us with prayer, please? Would you close us with prayer? Question, go ahead.
I'm from Connecticut. I just moved here. And what's confusing to me is that from what I've been hearing and reading is that the guy that was in the seat, they obviously fired him for no apparent reason. And I went to a meeting. A lot of people was upset about that. And then I'm hearing, on the other hand, that the chief is going to retire and then be put into that position. This is where I'm coming in at. I'm just trying to get some clarity from the chief.
So you've been listening to a news conference out of Riviera Beach with Chief Clarence Williams, surrounded by powerful attorney Willie Gary, by his wife, other supporters in the community, at once conciliatory and combative, saying he has been the victim of a witch hunt, saying malicious, politically motivated attacks to assassinate my character, the words of Chief Clarence Williams. All of this revolving around what originally was a simple question from hundreds who gathered at Riviera Beach City Hall. Why was the city manager, Jonathan Evans, suddenly fired, and weeks later, no reason offered as to his firing? And subsequent to that, Ashley, the questions have arisen. Were there those who were trying to create some kind of power play to perhaps put the chief, who's going to retire from that post soon, into the role? His lawyers say no, there was no political agenda, that they're disconnected, but therein has lied the debate that goes on tonight. And again, a news conference where they said, from their point of view, we're not going to stand for it. We're going to fight those who are casting aspersions on the chief's name. It was an interesting news conference, and one that also created and reminded us of a rift within the department, a 67-3 no confidence vote. In the chief.
And Chief Williams saying, in that meeting that was under questioning, really he was there to keep people safe. He wouldn't comment if there was an actual criminal investigation going on, and saying there was no political agenda to any of that. And of course, this all happened after before his retirement, of course, that he had already announced 5 months prior. So we're going to have much more coverage on this coming up tonight at 11 and throughout the week as well.
On now to NBC Nightly News in progress.